Episode 122, Empowering the Good Guys with Mimi Porter.
Welcome to Latter-day Life Coaches, the podcast where each episode is a conversation between me, Heather Rackham, and one of my amazing coach colleagues. Each coach here is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and a highly trained, experienced life coach making a great impact in the lives of their clients. And together, we have one main goal, helping you live your best life no matter what. You ready for this conversation with a coach? Here we go.
The emotional well-being of women is widely talked about, but the emotional well-being of men still requires more champions for their cause, so they can get the emotional help they deserve and need. There are so many men who work and try so hard to do all the right things, and yet they still feel like they are failing, and they are unhappy. They are checking all the boxes that they think will make them happy, and yet happiness is still elusive. Coach Mimi Porter wants to help men who she entitles the good guys see that happiness can be achieved, but they need to know how to empower themselves in better ways. If you are a man or know a man that is a really good guy but is still struggling, please listen to this episode. Men can learn so many tools that will help them feel more like the good guy they really are. And as always, if you have any questions, please drop them in the review section of iTunes, and Heather will answer them in a future episode. Now to Heather and Mimi's discussion.
Well, everybody, we are glad to be with you here today on another episode of Latter-day Life Coaches, and I am joined today by another amazing coach, Coach Mimi Porter. Hey, Mimi.
Hi, happy to be here.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you here with me. I just love Mimi. She's so fun and so knowledgeable, and I'm excited for this conversation. So, Mimi, before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about you?
All right. Well, I found life coaching on accident to start with. I've been married for 32 years. We have 6 children, and by the time this airs, we'll have 5 grandbabies.
Oh my gosh.
And so we have a lot going on. I actually married my high school sweetheart and thought that life was just going to be the storybook, right? And then turns out anytime you have 2 humans, there's just going to be more challenges in a relationship than you think. And so I moved from naive to realizing, hey, wait, maybe we should learn some things. And so I went back to school when my youngest started preschool, and I found BYU Idaho online and went to their marriage and family studies degree to finish my degree. My hope was that I would get it finished before any of my children got their degrees. And I really fell in love with what I was learning. And in the program at the time, they were doing a pilot for family life coaches, and it would count as our internship. And at first I was really resistant to it. I didn't know what life coaching was. I thought anybody who's going to really help people, they're going to need to have a master's degree. What is this life coach school? But I really felt a lot of prompting. I couldn't not do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I started that and immediately fell in love. The first time I coached my first practice client, I just was absolutely in love with the process and what I was learning. At that time, I also learned about some other life coaches. Jody Moore was really how I found my way to the life coach school, and realized after that semester, I knew I wanted more. And so I joined the life coach school, got my certification there, got hired by them to work in their program. And it's been about almost 4 years now. And so I've had over 10,000 coaching sessions with people literally all over the world in all walks of life. And as I've been doing that, I've more and more gotten clear about what I really feel passionate about helping people with is their relationships, especially their marriages, but any relationships, and especially men. I don't think that enough people are talking about this to men. And So last summer, I started my own little podcast that now it has over 5,000 downloads. So it's really growing. And I'm really passionate about helping these, what I refer to as good guys. So my podcast is called In the Good Guy Corner. And that's who I'm focusing on helping in their relationships.
Well, I love that title. It brings up probably a whole lot of emotions for a lot of people when they hear it, but also attracts a lot of people to it too, because it's something that I would assume that a lot of men relate to, just being that good old guy.
Yes. And if they're good guys and they know that they are doing good things, why are they suffering so much in their relationship? Why is life not better than it is? Why is it such a struggle? Why is there so much discouragement? Like everything on the outside of my life looks amazing, but why am I like secretly suffering so much inside? That's really what I feel passionate about.
Okay. So, I mean, I know the vision that I have in my mind when you talk about the good guy, but tell me how you define that.
I would say that it's guys who are committed. They have good morals, good values. They are committed to their families, even whether they're married or not. They have children. Like they're committed to the people in their lives and committed to working hard. And most of them are just really passionate about serving other people, like doing good, not just selfish. They're more outward focused. And then it just seems like, gosh, if I'm doing so much good, why isn't life easier than it is? I think in their cores, they just know, like, I'm a good guy. So why is life so hard?
Yeah. Yeah. I like that you've defined that too, right? That you just really kind of put a tack in that definition. And it's like, it gives men like a way to describe themselves, even just to be able to say, yeah, that's me, a way to identify.
Yeah.
And
I would say
realize
if you're
that
listening to this podcast, you're a good guy.
yeah, yes. And also to recognize that, and you're obviously not the only one that feels that way.
Oh, yes. I think that our sacrament meetings and our elders quorums are full of these good guys and they probably think I'm the only one who's suffering, because I don't think that it's something that they're really talking about and feel really alone, and especially feel like, gosh, I guess I really should just be more grateful. I have so many blessings in my life. I should just get over myself. I should just count my blessings and be just more grateful, and then everything will be better. And there's just more to it, and more help available if you just ask. Just let yourself find the help.
Yeah, that's interesting you said that, because I heard somebody say that exact thing yesterday. If I could just be more grateful, I know if I could just have more gratitude, then things would probably turn around for me. And I thought, you probably suffer from this as much as I do, where we have that little part of our brain that wants to be like, no, you're wrong. Not wrong, but like we always have this little piece of it that want to interject and say, oh, but that's not quite accurate. So I'm glad that we get to talk about that a little bit today. So I have heard you say that you have identified some ways that men are giving away their power. Will you explain to us what you mean by that?
Yeah. So giving away power, I've found that as I'm coaching people, I like to kind of keep a measurement. So those of you who can see this on video, I'm using my hands from down low to up high, of this measurement of how empowered do we feel, as if it 0 down here at the bottom, up here to 10 is kind of the way that I couch it. That we have this internal level of how empowered do we feel. And so first of all, it's important to identify a particular area in your life, not just putting everything in the same bucket and then, I don't feel empowered at all, but to be identifying, is this about your career, your job? Is this about a relationship with a sibling or a parent, or, your extended family? Is this about a relationship with your spouse? Is this about a relationship with a child? different aspects in your life? Or is it about finding like some kind of passion for yourself of like a hobby or something, and just feeling really disempowered, really low power that way? So that's, again, to say, pick an area in your life that you're looking at when you ask yourself, how empowered do I feel? What number would I give myself on this scale? If it's lower than 5, we want to really be looking at why, where is that power going? Because the truth is that for anything that we really care about in our life, we do have full empowerment. We have all the way to 10, full empowerment to accomplish or work on or deal with whatever it is that's happening, when those things that we really care about. But when we don't feel like it, when we don't feel like we have power there, or we feel really stuck or really discouraged in that particular area of our life, to me, it begs the question of where is that power going? And as I've worked with people, I found pretty much 6 different categories of areas that we give our power away. I call them the hidden ways that we're giving our power away.
Okay. My brain is kind of like, I have this visual in my mind when you're talking about power and giving it away. It's sometimes hard for us to understand what that means, right? When people are like, what do you like? How empowered do I feel? What does that mean? And I think it's important for us to recognize that we don't always know those things right away. It takes a little bit of time, probably, I would assume, for your clients to kind of think about that and really see how empowered they do feel. Have you seen that to be the case?
So take some suggestions of, well, let's look at this particular area of your life. So one of the things is people, other people. We give our power to other people.
Mm-hmm.
A big way that I see this in relationships, especially with these good guys, right? They have a value for helping people. Like, they want their people to be happy. They want their wife to be happy. They want their kids to be happy. And they try to do things that are going to try to control that. They kind of think that it's their job. And so they're giving their power to the other person. Like, they can only feel successful if the other person is happy.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to control things that are really outside their control. They've given themselves really an impossible job, and don't really allow themselves to decide, how do I want to be showing up in my life? And I want to invite people to be happy, but I can't actually control it. And so that's a healthier attitude about it is, how do I want to show up? I'm inviting my wife to be happy, or I'm inviting my child to be happy, but I can't actually control it, but I can totally control me.
Mm-hmm.
When they're given their power away to the other person, they lost their inner power to decide how do they want to be showing up, right? It's all determined by the other person, what's happening with the other person. So that's one of these hidden ways. And it sounds so nice that I just want them to be happy. Isn't that my job? Well, no, it's actually, relationships work better when you're not giving yourself that job, when you're letting them be happy, because that's who they are being. We're needing to control it. We're giving all of the power away to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Our power.
Yeah, that's a sneaky little thing. And I'm glad you explained it like that, because sometimes when we say, are you giving your power away? It's hard to understand and know what that means. But anytime we're looking to somebody or something outside of us to make us feel something, whether it's to feel love or to feel successful or to feel any emotion, really happy, if we need somebody else to do that for us, we are basically handing them power over us.
Yes. Another thing that I see a lot in terms of this dynamic with other people is when we're needing the validation from somebody else. So a lot of times, these guys, they're doing good things, and gosh, why is nobody appreciating me, is kind of the perspective, right? Like I do so much, whether it's in their job or at home, because they're, again, driven with service mindedness and doing so good and so much good. And needing the validation from somebody else also gives the other person the power over how they're going to feel, right? If nobody, I'm doing all this work and nobody appreciates me, then I feel pretty disempowered in what I'm doing. And it's the responsibility of the other person to make sure that they are acknowledging me enough, giving me enough validation. When really we have, as humans, we have so much capacity to give ourselves some credit, to be proud of the person that we are and have a good relationship with ourselves, knowing that, yeah, I am showing up as the person that I want to be, and I can validate myself. I don't have to have it from somebody else. Of course, it's nice, but when we need it, that's where we've given, we're giving our power to the other person.
Yeah. And the last thing we would want, anybody who's listening to this and identifying with that, being like, oh yeah, that's me. I need that validation, or I want to be able to take care of all the people. We don't want anybody to feel like, oh, and I shouldn't be doing that. Like, oh, that's just one more area where I'm not doing well. I think it's important for people to realize that, and we're kind of wired to do that as humans. We're kind of wired to want that. And which doesn't necessarily mean that as humans, we're not necessarily wired to always do the things that are going to be most helpful to us. Our body just it's like wanting to protect us. And so somehow it sees that as a protection mechanism. So I just say that all so that no one listening is like, oh, great. Well, here's one more area I'm not doing well. But I think just to have some compassion for people to see, like, yeah, no wonder that I'm doing this. Like it's natural that I'm doing this.
Yes. And not always the most useful.
Yeah. Yes.
We make our life more difficult than it needs to be.
Yes, we are our own worst enemy many, many, many times. Okay, so and maybe you already talked about this kind of interspersed in what you and I have talked about, but I know there are hidden ways that you say that people are giving their power away. Are those the two things that we just talked about?
Well, so that was one of them. The first one is we give it to people.
Okay.
And when the other people aren't using our power the way we want them to, like, again, we're needing the other person to do X, Y, Z, or to give us the validation or to be happier than they are. We're giving them the power instead of really owning for ourselves. How is it that I want to be showing up? I'm, again, back to this, the good guys, and giving themselves credit, not just needing it to be coming from the other person. So that's one way that happens.
Okay.
Giving it to other people. Another one that I wanted to be sure to talk about is the past.
Ooh, yeah.
Where so many people are giving power away to the past, bringing in things from the past that they regret, or mistakes that they made, or what they would call mistakes. Anything from the past that they're still carrying around is just one of those hidden ways where they keep themselves disempowered, keep themselves more stuck, keep themselves from moving forward. I like to think of kind of this image of, is this heavy baggage, either like a heavy backpack or this heavy bag over their shoulder, that they're still moving forward and doing their best, but they're bringing along so much baggage that they don't need to be. And so a lot of the time when you feel disempowered, going back to that empowerment scale, feel low power, lots of times it's because of the baggage that from the past that they're bringing along.
A couple, you mentioned things from the past that were like things that they had done, like they were things that probably maybe they had control over, but would you also put things that maybe other people had done to you in the past as one of those
Sure.
things that they would hold on to?
Oh, yeah, sure. The past, just in general.
Okay.
And another one that I see a lot is like things that they've tried in the past that didn't
Mm.
work, right? Like, so here, when I see a lot is people who have an idea for something like a side business or a totally new business that they want to start, but they had, such and such happened in the past that didn't work out the way they thought. So I can't, then they start having beliefs like, I can't do anything like that. I
Mm.
tried before. Or even, people who are trying to overcome something like pornography or, other things that challenges that they've had, behaviors that they don't want to continue. And they just feel so stuck in making progress because I tried this and I tried that and it didn't work. And really what they're doing is giving their power away to the past.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not true. The past doesn't have any power to keep you from what you would like in the future.
Mm-hmm.
It's only our beliefs about it that keep us giving power
Right.
to the past.
Right. That can be such a freeing thing to understand and identify. It doesn't mean that it makes it easy to just, all of a sudden just start moving forward. Because I think there are things that we have to take into consideration too, right? Like we learn to have natural responses to things based upon how we've reacted to them in the past. And we have to learn to work through all of those things. But just knowing and understanding what we're doing is so helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you've helped us identify a couple of ways that that the good guys are kind of giving away some of their power. Once they can see and recognize where that is going, where that power is going, how do you help them start to take that back? How can people do that?
Yeah. So we really start identifying the beliefs that are underneath it. Like, for instance, going back to the past, the giving the power away to the past really boils down to what are you believing? Believing that I'm not good enough, believing that I don't have what it takes, or believing something's wrong with me, right? So it's finding what are those beliefs that then they might not even be noticing. Most of us, that's the case, where we don't even realize the beliefs that are holding us back and keeping us stuck. So that's the first thing, is finding those beliefs, finding the things that aren't true, because our brain offers us stuff as if it's true. An easy one too that happens a lot is just simply, I can't.
Mm-hmm. That's a dangerous one.
Yeah. And it's easy to believe.
Yes.
And we can find evidence from the past of things that we've tried, but still not a fact that I can't. So that's what I do, is help them highlight and separate out, okay, what are actually the facts? And then what is your brain offering you as a belief here that's actually not true? And that's really the kind of the big light bulb, is to recognize that these beliefs that we have that are not true, once we can really see that, then it just opens up all the possibilities that wait a second, if that's not true, then wow, then I can believe something else and I can create something different.
It's so interesting that you're bringing this up right now, because honestly, this morning, I was going through an old journal trying to find a thought that I had written down someplace. And it's probably a journal from 2 or 3 years ago. And I'm an avid jotter downer, so I've got lots of journals. And I was looking through it and I came across 2 pages that were just full of, I believe. They were like statements of things that I was starting to realize that I believed about just one certain area of my life. And I read through those beliefs and I was like, it's so interesting, because I do not believe a single one of those anymore. And it's totally like, it's in 2 years, those beliefs aren't even quote unquote true for me anymore. I believe something completely different. But had I never identified what I believed, I would have never been able to say, okay, and now I actually want to believe something different.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I just thought that that was interesting that you brought that up, because that's something that has really been helpful for me.
And I don't, as we're talking about beliefs, there are lots of beliefs that we do want to have. So I want to make sure that we're not giving the idea that beliefs are not good. It's just that we are not giving ourselves the chance to even question these ones. And what I'm talking about specifically is ones about ourselves, about, why we are staying stuck. It's ultimately it's because of what we're believing.
Yeah. And yes, some of those things on my list were, I believe that I cannot do this sort of thing. I believe that because of this about me, I can't do that. They were not like things that were helpful for me to continue believing, because they were keeping me from actually being able to do the things that I wanted to do.
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed about that, since we're on that topic, is lots of times there's a hidden protection that's there. And so we don't really like, we just see, as you just described there, that I don't want to believe this. This is keeping me from what it is, some result that I'm wanting or some change that I'm wanting. But I like to really shine the light on how lots of times those things that we are choosing to believe and kind of really holding on, but this is really true. Like, I just really can't, look, all of these times that I tried this and haven't worked, that we're also getting to protect ourselves from lots of things, lots of hidden things in there. So that's,
I actually had a client just today. Gosh, all these things are happening today in my life. And a client just today, we were talking about some anger that she was experiencing. And she just kind of stopped for a minute. She goes, but you know what? I think that anger, and I was so interested to hear that she came up with these words by herself. But anyway, she just said, I think anger is protecting me. I think I use that anger to protect me from getting hurt again. So and I thought that was a really interesting observation for her to make. It was one I had already made, but I had not shared with her, but she was able to identify it on her own. And so it's so true. There's a lot of things that we hang on to, and most of the things that we hang on to, we do because we think they're in some way protecting us.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes we're unaware of how it's protected. We just think that it's terrible. We think something's wrong with us that we can't let go. But it can be so helpful to recognize, there are some things that some ways that it's serving me. So many times these are things that have served us in the past where we've needed that kind of protection, but then it kind of becomes a habit, and we don't realize without real consciousness that, actually I've evolved enough now that I don't need the protection of that anymore.
So good to note. Okay, since we are on a Latter-day Saint podcast here, and most people that are listening today are members of our faith, how have you seen LDS men specifically giving? I'm sure that there's some different ways that they give their power away as compared to other people.
Yeah. So one especially that I want to talk about is what I call it the right way. So I'm putting right in quotes, right? When we're thinking that there's a right way to do something, it keeps us stuck because it's hard to find the right, how do we know for sure the right way? And I think that because in our culture, we do believe that there are some things that are just truly right and some things that are truly wrong. But I think that we extend that beyond what's useful. The example that's coming up for me is I remember for a long time in my life thinking every decision that I made just really matters. This could be the wrong decision, and then everything will be terrible and everything will fall apart. And it used to kind of paralyze me in driving, for instance. This is kind of funny to think about, but where I would be, headed to a certain destination, but there's lots of different ways to go. And literally be at a light where I can either turn and go left, or I can go straight and go this other way, right? And either way is going to get me there. But one route might be the wrong way and I will get in a car accident. And the other way would have been the right way. And, just like paralyzing myself about every decision. What if this isn't right? How do I know that if this is the right decision? And I just think we can take that too far, and that it becomes part of this staying stuck, feeling disempowered place where we're always thinking, okay, but what's the right decision? Yeah. And I just really like to offer to my clients that most of the time, we have so many decisions that we can make every day. And most of those decisions just really don't have a right or a wrong.
Yeah, I have seen that so much in my life and people around me. But the other piece to that is yes, we believe in a right and wrong, but we also believe there's a way for us to know there's a right or wrong, meaning we can pray and we can get personal revelation as to the right way. And that can be keep us very stuck and keep us very in one place because we just sit and wait to get the right answer.
Yes. And I think so many times, again, I think that falls into the protection category a lot, where we're putting it outside of ourselves, not really making the decision, and kind of justifying it as, well, I don't know if this is the right one or not, when really, if we stop to think about it, it's something that actually doesn't fall into that category.
Yeah, I would say that trust is probably a big issue there, that we have to learn how to trust ourselves a little bit more.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, what else? What are some other ways have you seen with LDS men?
When we are not owning our decisions, we're missing out on the empowerment that's available for us when we do. For instance, making a decision like for this particular job, for instance. Okay, so let's say, this client made a decision about this job, but if he's not owning it and indulging in, I don't want this job, but I have to have it. I don't want to do this, but I have to. That is like a lethal combination. That lethal is not quite the right word, but that combination of I don't want to, but I have to, is poison. Let's call it that. Is poison for our empowerment. And this is something that gets tangled up so much with good guys, but they're like, but I have to work. And I'd like to offer that, well, let's just notice that this gets at your values. You have a value for working, for providing. So therefore you are choosing to. And if you're owning it, it's just a one word difference between I have to and I choose to. But that one word difference is all the difference in the world in terms of empowerment. When you're owning the choice, that I'm choosing to do this, you have so much more empowerment. But when you're thinking, I have to, and I don't want to, that is going to totally bring your empowerment down.
I think one way, and I've actually coached a lot of people in this area, is that another way that we can own our decisions is when we feel like, and I felt this many times in my life, well, Heavenly Father, like, I feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. Like Heavenly Father has prompted me. I felt prompted to do this, or I've been called to do this. And then we proceed to do something that we don't really feel that we want to do. And then like we get a little bit of resentment for it. But it's so different, because I think if we can come to the point where, yes, I feel like he's asked me to do this, or I've been called to do this. And if we can just add that little piece to it, and I want to do this, rather than, well, it's something I have to do, it makes a huge difference. At least that's been my experience as well.
Yeah. And I would even stay in the middle there. I kind of see it like continuum of, way over on one side is the have to, and way over on the other side is want to. And somewhere in the middle is choose to.
Mm-hmm.
That like sometimes we kind of expect ourselves to go all the way to the want to.
Right.
And I think it can just be really empowering to recognize, okay, part of me doesn't want to, but I am choosing to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
again,
that's a
so kind of
great
make place for
yeah,
that.
I appreciate that distinction there. And I that was a really important thing for me to come to in a couple areas in my life. I really had to come to that choose or that choose space.
Yeah. And I think since we're on this about the want to, I like to show competing wants where on one hand, going back to the job thing, for instance, like on the one hand, we don't want to go to work.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, we do want to go to work, right? And they kind of compete against each other. And depending on how we're thinking about it, they kind of rise and fall of how much we want to. So many times I see, people disempowering themselves by saying, but no, I don't want to, but I have to, going back to that. And I like to say, and if somebody's watching the video, this will make a little more sense because I'm holding my hands up, kind of measuring them against each other. So on this hand, we don't want to. Yeah, okay, let's make place for that. That as a human, yeah, sometimes we don't do that. But if on the other hand, we know we're going to do it, there has to be enough reasons why we're going to do it that we can own more than when we're saying, I just have to. I don't want to, but I have to. An example that I like to use sometimes is paying taxes. That sometimes we'll say, I totally don't want to pay my taxes, but I have to. If you're going to pay your taxes, you actually have a higher desire for paying your taxes than you do for not paying your taxes, right? Yeah. And you can get your power back about paying your taxes because of owning why you're choosing it. Right. Why do you want to pay your taxes? Well, you don't want the consequences of not paying your taxes. You also probably have a value for being a good citizen, for being, these are good guys we're talking to, right?
Right.
So right. They have values for things that they're doing, but when they're not owning that they're choosing to do it, they're giving their power away in this, to the I have to.
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting. And something that I mean, these are things that are important for all of us to hear, right? Not just good guys, but women in general fall under these same categories as well. And, but aren't we glad that there's somebody like you, Mimi, that's helping the good guys out there? So I'm wondering, what stumbling blocks or pushbacks do you get from the good guys when they're trying to embark upon this journey to work on some more empowering thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think really a stumbling block, first of all, is just getting to the place of asking for help. Because I think so many times they're out there, silently suffering, and again fall into kind of that category of I just should be grateful. I shouldn't be complaining. I should just, and they like kind of drive themselves into dismissing themselves. And so I think that's the first stumbling block. And I have so much honor those who will humble themselves enough to ask for help, to just realize that there's something more that I'm missing, that my life could be better. So I'm just gonna be humble enough to ask, because I think that I shouldn't. I guess I would say that the main stumbling block is I shouldn't need help. That's a big one. I should be able to figure this out by myself. And I thought that for a long time, but I'm sure glad that I found this.
Isn't it amazing? Because even if you don't even think there's something, and that's what I learned from me, is that I felt that my life was pretty good. Like there wasn't anything blaring that I really needed help with, but I just started making a couple of changes and recognizing a couple things that I could see differently. And I had no idea, like the possibilities and where I had been stuck, and I didn't even know I had been stuck, was so eye-opening to me.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I would say that just another one of the stumbling blocks is not recognizing how our patterns are serving us in these, the hidden ways. Like where on the face of it, it just seems like, yeah, it's so obvious. My life would be better if I let go of XYZ, but yet I still keep falling into this. Well, let's just get really curious about how that does serve you. What does it get to protect you from? There's got to be reasons, or what hidden benefits are there. So those are some of the things that.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for sharing those with us. Well, but Mimi, before we wrap up today, can you share with us where people can find more of you for these good guys?
So I have my podcast, and my podcast is designed for guys, right? And it's really short. The episodes are from 4 to, I think my longest one is 12 minutes. And they just really get in and have actionable things that people can take away and really use today. I'm really trying to make it succinct, and but it's called In the Good Guy Corner, and it's available wherever you get podcasts.
Awesome.
So, and then my website is called thegoodguycorner.com. So, and there's there's free help on there. My podcast is also available on my website.
Awesome. Well, we'll link to all of it and make it easy for people to find. But thank you for sharing with us today. It's been awesome. I appreciate it.
Thanks for the great work you're doing here.
All of you are doing awesome things. So thank you. Thanks everybody for being here, and we'll see you again. Oh, and I wanted to say, Mimi mentioned a couple times, if you're watching this, some of you might be thinking, well, it's a podcast, so how can I be watching this? We do upload these videos because we're recording them via Zoom. We do upload the Zoom recordings to our YouTube channel. So if anybody prefers to watch rather than just listen, you can always check us out there on the YouTube channel. So I'm glad you said that, Mimi. Help me bring it to my attention. Have a good one, everybody. Hey, we just wanted to thank you for spending part of your day here with us at Latter-day Life Coaches and being part of this conversation. Share this with your friends so that you can have a conversation with them on this topic as well. And as always, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Have a good one, my friends.